Ratish, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you.
So, Dr. Mayank. Dr. Mayank?
Good evening, Dr. Subbarao. Good evening, Dr. Mayank. How are you all?
Oh, good. Thank you.
Nice
Thank you,
seeing
Jagannathan.
nice seeing in digital medium.
We become more closer, in fact.
Yeah,
Hmm?
true. Because we can work from home on a Saturday evening, you know. That's the advantage. Hi,
Yeah.
Mr. Debmalia Banerjee. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Thank you. Fine.
So maybe we'll wait for a few more minutes,
Sure.
and then start the session. Good to have all of you here today, especially on a Saturday afternoon. Rather, we are approaching towards an evening. It was a week-long program, and today is the last day. After this, we have one more session on real estate, and then we closed out.
How's the response been so far on the
See,
real?
response has been amazing because we had around more than 1,000 registrations.
Wow.
So, and a lot of people attended the program in multiple sessions which took place in these days. Then there were 8 provinces of India, 8 states who were our partners. You have seen the logos. And then 4 countries are our partners. So even we got the communication minister of Nigeria coming day before yesterday to speak. So 2 ambassadors were there. So and more than 100 speakers.
Good. That's nice to hear. I hope some of these a compendium of key points, at least for the respective groups, you'll share in a soft version.
Yes, we will prepare a post-event report. Our economic team is on the job, and it will take some time because it is
Sure.
very exhaustive.
I know.
Yeah. And then once this post-event report is done, it will be sent across to the speakers, photographs. From many states, many ministers they were there. So the states give their perspective, and more than 125 startups they had pitched. More than three out of 300 applications came for pitching
Wow.
in front of investors. 125 were shortlisted, and they were allowed to pitch for funding.
Fantastic. That's nice. Yeah.
There were 2 master classes. One was conducted by Google. So,
And I'm taking the liberty of speaking on behalf of Dr. Subbarao also till October 20th. Anyway, we are into the quarter 2 or the H1 financials. So all of us would be into that last minute nitpicking and trying to see
yes.
what we're going to report.
Yeah.
20 तारीख तक तो हमको as some of us say मरने को फुर्सत नहीं है जीने का तो छोड़ ही दो. So,
That is true. That is true. I'm only wondering, see, now after this session, there's a real estate session, something on the real estate. The real estate and startup, I am not correlate. I'm not able to correlate this, how that happens.
No, it's basically a session where these days we are also finding a lot of, it's not typically a builder-buyer relationship. These days we see a lot of involvement of technology and innovation in the real estate segment. So definitely, and a lot of startups have started working in the real estate segment. It's no longer the, Ford for a DLF or, M3M or, Nandani. So, there are young boys and girls who are also working, supplying technology, making life easier for the builders. So, it's all about that innovation in real estate.
Therefore, you must name that intelligence real estate.
Yes, intelligence real estate.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll wait for one more minute and then we start.
Yeah.
sure. In fact, Dr. Subbarao, you put it very nicely because one part of Lasan and Tubro, which where I work, we have the smart cities and those things. Slowly, people are wanting to adapt the city into a community into a kind of a cluster of buildings, if not an individual building.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the young entrepreneurs get a very good opportunity to showcase their talent because that's a fast-moving space.
Yeah.
Unlike Dr. Mayank, your mic is muted. Even if you say something, we are not able to hear. It would be nice to hear a hello from you.
Good afternoon, Subbarao
Great.
Garu and Ranganathan Garu both.
अरे
Oh, thank
काफी
you.
तेलुगु बात कर लेते
Very
हो आप.
happy to see both of my friends here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah, but good. No, you are also speaking Telugu. Good. Garu.
I was 11 years in Agni program and 9 years in Brahmos program in Hyderabad only.
Oh.
I know Italy Amma quote me all such things I remember.
చాలా బాగుగా మాట్లాడతారు అతను ఇప్పుడు
Yes,
మాట్లాడలేదు
I know.
మర్చిపోయారు ఇప్పుడు సారీ ఫర్ స్పీకింగ్ ఇన్ తెలుగు టు అదర్ ప్యానలిస్ట్
Givi Garu, Bhuvistanaru, all these things I understand.
That's good. Yeah. In fact, lightening the atmosphere, so that we're not tense while discussing things. That's all the point.
Basically, I wanted to settle down in Hyderabad only. But
Oh,
so
wow.
happened because of Brahmos compulsion, Dr. Pillai brought me to DRDO headquarters, at Brahmos headquarters in Delhi.
Yeah.
Basically, I bought my plots, etc. Ramaraj Rao Film City nearby, and everything I plan to settle down there. But in government jobs, you cannot, I am not as lucky as Subbarao Saab is there, own company, wherever he wants to stay, throughout his life, he can stay. So I have to move as per the government's requirement.
In fact, I tell you, even today, Hyderabad is better than us.
Yes.
So with permission from all of you, should we start?
Yeah.
We are starting then. So Dr. Dwivedi will be our first speaker. Let me do my opening remarks, and then I'll invite Dr. Dwivedi to start speaking. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and all the fellow attendees for this last day of India Startup Week. We are starting with our session on the role of startup in defense sector. So we have some of the most distinguished names of Indian defense industry, both private sector and government, who has agreed and who you can see on the screen to come on board as speakers and share their thoughts with all of us. At the very onset, I would like to invite Dr. Mayank Dwivedi, who is a Directorate of Industry Interface and Technology Management in DRDO headquarters. He is ME in Polymer Technology from Delhi College of Engineering, Delhi, and PhD in Advanced Composites from IIT Delhi. He has immense contribution to the field of polymer sciences, and he has authored a few of the books on nanotechnology. And he's also the recipient of the Lab Scientist of the Year award in DRDO in 2003. So, Dr. Dwivedi, if you could share your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much, and very good afternoon, all the participants. First of all, I will thank Indian Chamber of Commerce, all the officials, primarily Mr. Banerjee and Mr. Rex Anthony, for inviting me for this webinar, where I can share the DRDO's ideas, because I was told that many startups and many MSMEs are going to join, and eminent speakers from Untitled Technologies and L&T, etc. all are participating, and it is really a pleasure that very right panel and very competent panel you have got for this. And I was hearing that so many good speakers all were delivering the talk, almost 1,000 participants were there. Well, very good afternoon to you all, and all the officials, all the industry partners, and ladies and gentlemen. The point I will start from that, because I have been given 10 to 12 minutes to speak. Within 10 to 12 minutes, I have to tell the entire story what we are planning. Number one, let me tell you, whatever we do in the government sector today as DRDO, the industries are very important partner to us. Whatever we do as R&D product, every R&D product we do along with the industry. Today, the L&T group is sitting here, Mr. Ranganathan is here, and for last almost 35 to 40 years, we are working in various major programs with L&T, and it so happens today that many of the big programs and many of the big products, L&T is just another DRDO, we are part and parcel. And like that, L&T, we have many other companies, but that type of association we have with the industries. And today in DRDO's complete ecosystem, you see right from the material suppliers to procurement, etc., what we are getting from the industries, etc. There are 14,000 plus industries, including MSMEs, are participating with DRDO. We had around 2,100 industries are there, which are lead system integrator. The very important what I will tell you, as on date, I can tell you not a single project in DRDO is taken up without industry partner. It is not only the mandatory from our side, rather we feel if we want to fructify a project into a viable product which can be inducted into the armed forces, the industry partners are very important so that the entire technology can be transferred, and that's how the defense manufacturing sector can be brought up, and they can fabricate, they can produce the quality product, and that product can go into the Indian Armed Forces and can be exported too. The DRDO's modus operandi is that whatever product we develop through a project. In the project, various technologies are developed, and those technologies, they drive finally a product. Finally, technology has no meaning unless it converts into a product, and the product in tangible form may be used by the user. So this is our motto. And for every product, it is not only the lead system integrator is there. We have got a complete supply chain with us. Like I will give you the example, like Advanced Towed Artillery Gun System. There are two lead system integrators. One is Tata Advanced Systems Limited, Tata Group, and Bharat Forge. But if you talk about the supply chain, in the ecosystem, there are 462 more industries. Somebody is supplying the muzzle brake, somebody is supplying the trails, somebody is supplying some fire control system, some breeze block related products. Like that, the complete thing comes in. So, and we ensure that our entire supply chain remains intact so that supply chain industry, they do not feel that tomorrow when the supply order is coming, they are left by LSI or DRDO. No, because we want inclusive growth, because when industry grow along with us, then finally DRDO also gains out of it, because those industries' capability are utilized for our future program and projects. DRDO as an organization has got various modes of engaging the industries. Now, number one, as I told, in any of our program and project, the industries are most welcome to join us as a development partner. For the development partner, there is a EOI, industry apply, their technical evaluation is done. Then after that, there is a commercial negotiation, and based on that, the right partner is chosen to participate in our project, and that partner becomes the production agency eventually, and this is declared to the Indian Armed Forces, and they are the supplier of that particular product, and only for the exports also, because nowadays DRDO is getting a lot of export inquiries, and more than 12 countries we have so far exported. A queue is there. The countries are demanding various type of radar system, missile system, etc. And that's why we have like one important product like Pinnacle rocket system is being demanded by various countries, and L&T is there in the lead system as a lead system integrator, where they are likely to get supply order, and they will supply into the foreign countries. So one is that industry can be associated as development partner in the program and project. Second thing, DRDO develops the technology suo motu by itself. Those technology can be transferred to the industry, whether industries are our development partner or our declared or nominated production agencies. No TOT fee is charged. Otherwise, just a meager amount of 5% of project development cost, that money is charged as a TOT fee. And that's how the technologies are transferred. Technology are two categories. One is a category A technology, which are military technologies, which are transferred directly by the lab. The second category of the technology is a category B technology, which are dual use technologies, which are used for Indian Armed Forces as well as commercial market also, like mosquito repellent cream, Leukoderma cream, and various other life sciences products. Lot of ready-to-eat meals, ration, that whatever you see, MTR, Haldiram, so many ready-to-eat meals, etc. Now, all the technology primarily developed by DRDO and transferred to them. So this is the second way we do it. Then third thing is, we have the industries which can be associated with us at a joint venture. Like in BrahMos missile, you see the Russians are the joint venture partner with us. Like that, we are open that many industry can join us as a joint venture. Then industry may also join us under the government-owned company-operated system, because many times certain products are there like HMX, RDX, high explosives, getting their license, getting their infrastructure and facility, and the type of TESO license required, because quite difficult, and this is a big production. There is a big production requirement. So DRDO feels that let industry come and operate our facility under government-owned company operator system, and you supply to the user the requisite product and you make the profit out of it. There's a GOCO policy is there. Then limited series production, their industries can involve. Then limited series production for a limited number of quantity. Suppose some product to be supplied, industry may not like to go ahead for the plant, etc., because the investment cost will be too high. The requirement by the armed forces is very limited. So we provide our facility, we place the supply order, and accordingly the limited series production is commenced through the industries and supplied to the Indian Armed Forces. Apart from that, for industries, we have opened all our patents. All patents filed by DRDO or obtained by DRDO rather, all are free for use for the Indian industries. Indian industries can use those patents, may develop their own technologies, and they can develop their own products out of it. And whatever product they develop out of using DRDO patent, the exclusive marketing right will be given to that industry only. That DRDO will not claim any right over it. Because our aim is finally not making the money, because we are the government organization. Our job is using public funds, developing technologies, converting them to the product, and finally transferring these technologies for the growth of Indian industries, Indian defense sector, so that country grows up, country's GDP grows up, the Indian defense sector grows up, and that's how the armed forces are helped with the indigenous products. Then, last thing is, I will speak that I will tell you that all the test facilities of DRDO have been thrown open for the industries. Earlier, many of the test facilities were not there for the industries, but now all the test facilities are thrown open, and the industries can utilize those test facilities and at no profit, no loss basis, and the result they can utilize for the supplying the products. Then another thing is there that many types industries that do not have their certain specific expertise, and for that expertise they want certain R&D support, and for that R&D support, getting the manpower, the infrastructure, the machinery, equipment, etc., are very costly proposition. So DRDO even offers the industry that if you want certain module one or technology to be developed for you, industries can approach DRDO. There DRDO become the vendor and you become the vendee. I give you my quotation that for this much money, I will develop this particular module or technology for you. And after development of technology module, the complete transfer of technology is given to you, the product is given to you, and the IPR rights are also with you. Whatever the background IPR is there, that is mine. But foreground IPR, whatever I generate using your funds, are given to you. That's how we support the industry through R&D also. And for that type of support, even L&T has taken the support from us, and we have developed certain modules, software, etc. for L&T also. Then another thing is there, we want to inculcate R&D culture in Indian industries. And for that, technology development funds are there. So for that, Mrs. Nidhi Bansal is also speaking. I have seen her name. She is one of the speakers, so she will dwell upon it and she will elaborate all those things. And we will like it, we will appreciate it. This is a very important program that DRDO has started by funding to industries for the R&D. But the important thing, what I want to drive in this 10 to 12 minutes to you, the message I want to drive it, that there was a time when DRDO was developing the technologies and hardly 15, 20, 30 technology we were able to transfer, and primarily those technologies were transferred only in the category B, where the life sciences products, etc. were there, where the commercial usage was there. But as far as defense technologies were concerned, we were not able to transfer many technologies because every technology was going to either DPSU or honest factory. And in private industries, I think to start with, when I started my career in 91, 92, that time I think the first big system we have worked with L&T and Tata with the Pinaka. And we were not that much open with the private industry, but today the situation is completely changed. It is completely level playing field. Today you see the man-portable anti-tank guided missile technology transfer has taken place to EEL Nagpur. Today the attacks, the gun system is being done by Bharat Forge and Tata. So this is a level playing field, and we are pushing the private sectors a lot because we have understood all over the world the governments have supported their private industries to the extent possible, and that's how those countries have become a developed country. Today also we believe that we have to support our industries to a great extent, then only our GDP, our employment, our technology standards, everything will grow up. And that's how the true Atmanirbhar Bharat, what we say, will achieve. So today the situation has come with the time the technology developed by DRDO have matured to the extent that last year more than 200 technology transfer took place from DRDO. Now today's situation is such, if I publish 4 or 5 licenses for certain technology, the applications are more than number of licenses I have declared. Like I give the example of anti-drone system. We declared with lot of churning, etc., more than 6 industries will not come. And primarily we were thinking the L&T, Adani and one or Bell, these 2 or 3 industries will be there. And probably Tata also. 12 industries have applied. And most probably 7, 8 are getting cleared also. So the point I want to tell you, that DRDO's technologies are so advanced and so mature today that people have trust in DRDO's technology, the industries have trust in DRDO technology, and they're queuing up. And the technologies are really world class. Why? Because defense technology, nobody will take any standard technology. If you think that Indian Armed Forces and foreign country will take a technology which is not up to the mark, that is not going to take place. And industries are not so naive. They will take DRDO technology by paying crores of rupees just like that, because they are not going to get business. So I want to drive a point that today DRDO's technologies have come up to a level where the industries are queuing up to take the technology, and they are mature technology, and we are supporting the industry. Also, the type of government policies make in India, Startup India, with Ministry of Defense schemes like IDEX, Vision, all these categories, IDDM, all etc. have come up, which are completely industry friendly. And seeing all those policies, etc., DRDO's policies have also made in such a way they have dovetailed with all these policies, so that industries gets a proper package, so that industry are never harassed, never feel that they are not being taken care of by any of the government organization. Because we, in inclusive way, we are working out. We are interacting continuously with DPIIT, we are interacting continuously with the Department of Defense Production, as that's how we are making all the joint programs in such a way so that industries are truly benefited. And I think this is the time which is very nicely poised, where the industry should take complete advantage of whatever the technology is being developed by DRDO and whatever the schemes etc. are being offered by DDP or DRDO or various other organizations. I think this is a time. It is the best opportune time for all industries. When we talk about the startup, the type of subsidy, etc., government has announced in the way for the test equipment, etc., up to 15 to 30% subsidy is given. All those things are really very important milestones, very important decisions. And there we are trying to make truly that, yes, that Atmanirbhar Bharat, that completely self-dependence in technology and the defense products are achieved. Lastly, I will say, whatever project and program we do, we, for the science and technology growth, we engage the industries, because when the TRL level up to 3 or 4, we require a lot of science and technology research to be done. So S&T project we launch and we involve the academia. That's how the S&T understanding we develop. Once we are sure that all the requisite technologies are developed, then we go for the technology demonstration type of projects. And that time we engage the industry, and that is up to TR level 6, 5, 6, 7. And when 7, 8 and above we are there, then we are ready for with the product. And that's how we go for the mission moon projects. And that's how the projects are developed, products are developed and transferred to the industry and given to the Indian Armed Forces. The important thing is the entire system. Every stakeholder is important, and prime stakeholders are the user, the armed forces. The DRDO exists because of the Indian Armed Forces, because their requirement we fulfill, we cater, and that's how we develop the technology and convert them to the products. That's how they are integrated to the armed forces. So we work in a very good ecosystem, in a very good synergy. Industries are our very valuable partners. Basically, many times the industry's partners, they feel that DRDO is giving the technology, being the government officers, we are the important people in the sense that we are providing the technology. Let me tell you this myth, it is completely wrong. Without you, we DRDO, we cannot survive. Because whatever R&D I do and top class technologies I develop, and top class prototype I develop and keep in my DRDO, my organization, my lab, it has no meaning unless they go to the user. And they go to the user because of the industries. So you are the very, very important partners. Without you, the DRDO product will not see the light of the day. So in this ecosystem, in this synergy, I think we should work together. At any time, any support is required from DRDO side. I am Director Industry Interface. I am always there for the industries. I will be always helping you out. And to the extent possible, I will do the needful for you. So I hope that with this synergy and with this today's discussion with all the West Bengal industries, and we start a new chapter again, and we make the India self-reliant and Atmanirbhar Bharat truly as government and our Honorable Prime Minister has called. Thank you very much. Jai Hind. Any question, kindly ask.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dwivedi. Your speech had a lot of assurances for the industry. This is something which was very meaningful. And just to share, ICC is a national organization, and the audience across the country, they are listening to this. It's not restrictive to West Bengal now. I myself, I am from Delhi.
Okay.
So I'm from my Delhi office, so it's like that. So, and we work closely on the defense sector with the Indian industry, especially on the Telangana side. There's a cluster. We are working with the UP government for the defense corridor. We are synergizing with them. So in fact, the idea of the private sector will really get translated to an invoice if they partner with you, and the ideas will genuinely get commercialized. The value for money the entrepreneurs will get. This is something, a great assurance that we are getting, because people are scared. You're a government organization, very high profile. Why should we approach? So, but a lot of youngsters in the country are developing a lot of innovative products which can be useful for the defense sector. So I think, under your mentorship, private sector can progress further in the defense space. And this is really reassuring. And, we will continue to repeat your words in our conferences, in our programs, that DRDO, please partner with them, because, they are heartily welcoming the private sector. It's not that the government scientists are only doing things at DRDO. It's a private sector who plays a very, very key role in terms of technology development of the country, and DRDO is facilitating the same.
But let me tell you, DRDO values private industries enormously. Basically,
no, this is extremely valid point.
Because of private industries.
We will keep on, trumpeting the entire thing now, since now we know, because, DRDO means people get scared. It is a very high profile government. We cannot,
I do not have any horns, etc. I am just human being. Anybody can contact me anytime.
Yes.
I will be there always for their help.
No, we will share your email ID with the people who has developed good technology, wants access. So that is our job as a chamber. We will certainly do such facilitation. And, the people who are involved in the defense sector in our chamber, we will certainly, facilitate the message across. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your deliberation. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. S. Ranganathan. He's an executive vice president with L&T. He will be our next speaker. Now, let me give you a short background about Mr. Ranganathan. BITS Pilani alumni. He is a board member of L&T Defense, and again, a veteran with L&T close to 4 decades now, correct? So, he has brought a lot of value to the organization and helped the organization to diversify into the defense sector. That is what we have understood about your profile. And he is also, in addition to his capacity as an executive vice president in the corporate rank and file, he is also a board member of L&T Defense, the new initiative of L&T. The L&T, typically people feel it's a construction, etc. Defense also, you people are very strong, and people like you who are steering the entire initiative, it's very heartening to have you on board. Mr. Ranganathan, please, share your views with the private sector, encourage these young people so that, they find the right path. Thank you so much. Please start.
Yeah. Dear ICC fellow panelists and other attendees, thank you very much. It's a pleasure, especially after Dr. Mayank has set the context, it makes my life a little easy. Having known him for 3 decades of my career, I think he set the points right. You know, the one thing I would submit, there are lots of success stories, no doubt about it, and I'm sure Dr. Rao will, being an entrepreneur himself, putting his own money, he will have more to share. But I put the shareholders' money, so to that extent, I'm an entrepreneur and not an entrepreneur in that true definition of the word. Moving forward, the defense has started taking shape. Let's not forget that when we got our independence, the first 25-30 years the country had to focus on giving clothes, food, basic amenities to the countrymen. So the till the mid 70s to even I would say till 80s, early 80s, barely there was anything that we could call the combination of a scientific and an industrial temper or tempo. We had to take care of the basic needs. All of us know the Maslow's laws. But the mid 80s started the transformation, and while the scientific temper certainly went up in the strategic sectors, be it the oil, be it the nuclear, be it the aerospace, be it the defense. Catching up defense took a little longer for very obvious reasons. The strategy, the national imperatives, the war scenarios. We had multiple wars between independence and the 71. That also gave certain things. The public sector undertakings were set up with a very noble intent. The ordnance factory boards, which now, of course, from last 9 days, we can talk in a little different tone. They were set up in the 1780s or so, which is like 220 plus years. Everybody had a particular purpose. Every organization had a purpose. The main purpose those days, and let's not forget, till very recently we were considered the largest importer of defense, was to get transfer of technology primarily from a foreign OEM, which was focusing on manufacturing. And for the young entrepreneurs, please remember that when the transfer of technology is given by a foreign OEM, a change of a washer, I'm taking a simplest possible component, was impossible. You want the change to be approved, you pay thousands and thousands of dollars to just get that approved. Those technically and technologically, you know the solution. So under these constraints, they operated. We'll have to appreciate those constraints, otherwise we'll be just talking about something which is far from reality. Mid 80s started the metamorphosis in defense, and we had the defense policy where private sector was also encouraged by government providing licenses sometime in 2001-2. I could be wrong by a couple of months, but somewhere around that time, which is almost 2 decades. What has happened? Thereafter, we have seen that from every walk of life, be it in the industry, be it in the corporate world, be it in the entrepreneur world, things have started moving. Today, if you look at, I don't want to take any specific name, but if you look at last maybe 2 weeks of news in the defense segment, in the drone segment that Dr. Mayank did speak about, the winners have been people who may not have had much foothold in the defense, mainly in the entrepreneurial startup kind of a thing. But there's always a flip side. The cake is looking very nice at the top, but there's a lot of sugar we have to be careful about. Let's not forget that defense continues for now to be a monopoly. We have a single customer scenario, whether it comes through a shipyard, whether it comes to anything, ultimately the user, the armed forces, and of course routing through the Ministry of Defense. That is something which we need to be conscious of as startups. On a very in L&T, we've been with there now for 37 years approximately. 85 we started, so 36 years. We are still sometimes called that defense continues to be a startup in L&T, because L&T has grown, I don't know how many times since I joined. L&T has grown, I think, from about 200 odd crores to maybe 150,000 crores, whatever is the multiplication factor. But defense has not grown in the same way. To that extent, it does bring some challenges. So I will take a couple of examples of the positives and also certain areas of concern. Maybe that will be of some help. Mr. Devmale, do I have about 5 more minutes to go on? Okay, let me continue. I take it that silence is assent. Uh, the net balance between import, dependence on import, stopping of import, and nudging ourselves towards export is the current trend. And as Dr. Mayank put it, the exports have started growing. And exports, when we say, we are not talking of the conventional things where we may be selling some uniform, deputing some people from the to the United Nations peacekeeping forces. Nothing of the sort. We are talking of entire systems getting exported. There are any number of examples. Two reasons. One, of course, we are in a public domain, so to that extent, we may not be able to share the country names, the systems, for very obvious reasons. These are sensitive matters. Second, also, paucity of time, we can't list all the things, but that is seen. And one of the policies which has been announced by the government through its through Raksha Mantri's multiple speeches in many fora is how do we target 35,000 crores of exports by 2026, and 2021 is virtually coming to an end, so we just have about 4.5 years odd to reach that. That's a big challenge, but I'm sure with people, young entrepreneurs who come as startups, they should be possible, that should be feasible if not possible. How to make it happen? Let's do it together. Talking of DRDO technologies, there are any number, and I think I'm privileged being part of the L&T family to say that if at all there's an industry which has been a development cum production partner for DRDO decades before the policy was announced, it's us. We have been honored, privileged, and I think it's been a wonderful experience. The most important thing, and Dr. Mayank, bear with me if I say this, when you are discussing technical and technological stuff with DRDO, you can roll your sleeves, thump your table, and put your point. People are very flexible. Do not get an impression that you cannot talk technology there. They will have their viewpoints, but they are more than open to hear, and there is no ego there. What is right is important than who is right. That's what has been my experience. I am limiting to my experience. It's unfair that I speak for everybody else. We have talking of the startup part, there are a couple of challenges which does force it. The time frames, see, typically when we look at startups in the non-defense or in certain other sectors, the startups look at typically the first 3 months, the first 6 months. I mean, I know some people who say the first 2 weeks, the 4 weeks, but I'm looking at 3 months, 6 months, and thereafter maybe about 18 months. That's a kind of 18 months is a long term. In defense, short term is 3 to 4 years, medium term maybe about 6 to 7 years, and if you say long term, you have to look at 10 years. And let me share with an example, because otherwise we can get misled away. When the user comes up with a requirement of a system which may have a DRDO technology, which may not have a DRDO technology, the trend for the last about 16 years from 2005 is the industry which is participating, after giving that bank guarantees, and they have integrity pack bank guarantee and number of those. We know how expensive bank guarantees are in this country for all of us. The user, the bidder, is in most cases supposed to field the entire unit for trial evaluation by the users. That would involve, we are a lovely country. We have the summer temperatures in one part of the country going to 70 degrees. Not ambient will be 55, but inside the tank or inside any of those. And we also are blessed with the Himalayas, where in some parts of the highest battlefields in the world, the temperature can be minus 25, minus 30. So we need one equipment which operates at plus 70 and also at minus 40. So let us become very conscious of that. This, thanks to our association with DRDO, we've been able to, wade through, I would say. I won't say we've been able to swim through, but we've been able to wade through, understand, and move forward. When such requirements come, there is no single OEM in the world whose equipment is tested to this. So the ruggedization technology, the adaptation technology has to come from this country, and that is where startups will also have a very critical role. Typically, I mean, you get about 12 to 15 months to field your equipment, and it is called very beautifully acronymed as NCNC. That is November Charlie expands to no cost, no commitment. The government will not bear one paisa of the cost, and there's no commitment that they will buy, because under the Ministry of Defence prerogative, a request for proposal can be withdrawn even after trials have been completed and there is more than one bidder. If there's one bidder, there's a separate story. We'll go there later. But this means, let us say we are talking of a weapon system, just as an example. Typically, if you say weapon system, the sheer hardware, the software, the human efforts that go in, nothing comes lesser than 40-50 crores. I mean, I could be wrong. Somebody can argue and say, no, we'll make it in 38, but we are talking of that range. Second, Dr. Mayank talked about the ranges being made available. This is a very, very recent development. I would say it's less than about 12 months development. And again, the ranges that are made available are the DRDO ranges on the East Coast, also some of them on the West Coast, and the not on the West Coast, I'm sorry, on the Western borders, and some of the Army ranges. Please understand that when you take a weapon system and go there, you can't buy ammunition from ordnance factory or whatever it's called now and take it there. You're not allowed to handle. That is, we were not allowed to handle. You got to pay for that ammunition, field it. You will have your internal trials because it's the first time you're going to try your equipment. Then you'll have external trials. Each of these brings with it three aspects. One is the success factor when you carry out trials. Second is the cost factor. Ultimately, we are in business. Let's be very clear. Startup, entrepreneur, corporate like L&T, mega corporate like us, there's somewhere we have to be responsible to our shareholders. So the cost aspect also comes into play. Third, which is something where we sometimes lose track, is the time factor. Time also has a cost implication, but I'm looking at time as a time. And let us say that there will be always more than one bidders, but if there are two or three bidders, there's something at times which comes as a confirmatory trial. So this whole trial process, our experience has been, it's good to factor in about 24 to 27 months. After that, the headquarters evaluates the trial reports. They have their queries, you answer, the spares, etc. And then the bid gets, let's say that there are more than one bidders who get technically qualified in every aspect of the evaluation. The price bids are opened. Thereafter, it's a question of L1. So let's say somebody has put in 40-50 crores and then that company doesn't turn out to be L1. How many more programs will they be able to participate in? So these are questions which remain today a matter of concern even for large corporates like us. Dr. Mayank talked of DRDO technology. Let me share our experience again there. There is a system called an advanced pilotless target aircraft. I'm going back to maybe 10 years back, 2011 or so, where the DRDO technology was available. At that point, the DRDO policy was that we had to buy the technology. That's fair. That was a policy. There's nothing the scientists can do. It's a government policy. We were the only company, only bidder who were demonstrating, who were participating in the trial with an Indian product. What happened thereafter is a separate story. The government took a call. The RFP got withdrawn. वो चक्कर छोड़ देते हैं. But when he talked of advanced technology, actually heartwarming and music to me because we have had the benefit of that. There are other areas where options to work with the government through DRDO come. Today, of course, you have the Army Design Bureau coming in. You have always had the naval design. These are agencies which encourage, even at a system level. I don't want to talk at platform level because the costs get multiplied, and for startups, investments could be considerably higher. I'm not belittling your efforts. Please don't misunderstand me, young startup companies. All I'm saying is be aware of the enormity of the situation and the volumes that we are talking about. Another place where we worked out a very novel thing, this was sometime in 2007 with one of the DRDO labs in Gwalior. They were looking, the Indian armed forces, especially the army, was looking for detectors which could detect chemical and related stuff. I'll stop there. I'll not go there beyond beyond. And then we realized that here is an opportunity where it was a co-development model. One, of course, is DRDO technology, industrializing, ruggedizing, productioning. Second was co-development. The background IP of DRDO and of L&T in this specific case was with us. Whatever foreground we created, and it was equal footing. If there were 25 crores to be put, we said 12 and a half, 12 and a half. Bhai bandi nahi hai, we will work together, rub shoulders together. Believe it or not, for every Indian, it must be a proud moment. We have a product detector, not because we have done it and because DRDO person is sitting here, which is a world beater. But now look at it, from 2007 to 2021, there have been many people who have sweated, gave the blood, gave their sleepless nights. But what is the volume of business that we have got in this entire period? Forget the DRDO support. I'm not at all talking about that. From the user, all put together, I don't think it has crossed 15 crores. how many of us can, in this kind of a single customer, limited volume, uh, and partnership with DRDO or with OEM sustain for longer? This is a question which I would request my startup companies to be factoring in. Don't get scared. This is life. We still are called a startup in our business. In Larsen and Toubro, we are still called a startup. But be conscious of it. It helps. So pick and choose where you think your bets will place high. And I'm sure Dr. Subbarao after me, who's got a company of his own, would be able to share. Uh, Another thing today when we talk to, and I'll close with this point, is the spin-offs. Whatever we are able to do in defense, have a spin-off. I mean, loosely it's called, the dual purpose and all that, but if I have to use it, military, civil purpose. So the spin-offs are also large. So if you say that, yes, I can work on this technology, which will give me maybe a very small volume on in a consistent basis with defense, can I spin it off so that it gives me about 90% uptake? That's something which I would, it may be very nice for the startups to think of. I would once again like to thank ICC for providing L&T and myself an opportunity to speak. I've shared my points. Thank you very much. I'm muting my mic.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ranganathan. It was wonderful to hear your deliberation. We will now go to Dr. Subbarao, who is a technologist, and he has immensely contributed to the efforts of ISRO when it comes to missile launches and vehicle launches. So the company which he leads in the capacity of a chairman, Anand Technologies, has contributed to around 100 such satellite launches. So, Dr. Rao, if you could kindly share your views with us.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Banerjee. And distinguished panelists and my dear audiences, good evening and namaskar. I will not take much of your time because I have another two more speakers next to me, and the time is running out of the Saturday evening. So therefore, I will not take much time on that. I just briefly touch upon a few points. I myself was coming from a space background. I was a scientist working at ISRO in the space program. In 92, I left after 15 years of a good service in ISRO. I started the company that deals again with the space-related activities. In other words, in 92, I was a startup in the same spirit and whatever, the letter and spirit of what they coin it today. Okay. So therefore, I'm sure that many of the startups companies today, they will become the bigger companies in a few years to come. So therefore, but my startup in 92 was in a different environment altogether. I had the experience working in space and, all the academic service, the good academics, etc., come from Indian science and, all that, everything was so good. But the point here is, when we are burning within a spirit of entrepreneurship, that you want to do something on our own too, then how to do it, where to do it, how to go about it, that's what it matters. So I was coming in a scenario in 92 when, if I can form it in a little political language, it was something like a license permit quota Raj. That was the time that, we were into. That means whatever that you want to do, start a company, then we need a license, we need a permit, you need something of that kind, you have to register with some, all kinds of things you need. It's not like a free enterprise as such. I came from that background. So therefore, naturally, we have to tag on to an institute which has already been working in similar areas and work along with them. Then, that's how the whole process used to be there at that time. Fortunately, today, the present ecosystem, when you call it the startup, a lot of support is happening. When I was starting my company, there was no support, financial support from the government at all whatsoever. Then, I have to borrow money from the banking. If they borrow money from the banking system, a lot of problems, a lot of things associated with that. Somehow we survived over a period of time. But today, the present ecosystem that has been created by the government of India, and even for startups, so basically, to foster the innovation and the technology development. See, those days, the technology was permitted with the permits of the government of India, which means it can be ISRO laboratories or DIDO laboratories or, the academic institutes. Now, the encouragement they've been giving to each individual, because, India is a great nation with a lot of entrepreneurs. See, there are more than 100 crore of entrepreneurs in the country. Every farmer, every student is an entrepreneur by himself. Now, a system, ecosystem has to be put in place wherein this entrepreneurial spirit, that spirit will be unleashed. The potential is to be exploited. That's what the government of India has started doing it today. So that's why, for the innovation and the technology-related activities, there are huge opportunities. And it is said that, there's something about 70 billion opportunity for the startups. That's what the people are talking about it. And the budget of Department of the only defense budget alone is running into something like 2.5 lakh crores over next 5 years, which means not that entire is an opportunity, but we find some opportunity in that. There may be many platforms that the government of India may import from elsewhere, but being the Make in India is the main element in this. There'll be opportunities for us to work along with them in order to see that, a lot of contribution will be made by the startups in that. So again, in this, though it is defined as the defense sector startups, that's the theme of the 2 days. In the defense sector, there are two elements. One is the defense hardware related is one activity. The other one is there are also a lot of space activity that dominates in the defense today. In terms of surveillance, having the satellites into the space exclusively for defense-related activities. Here, my point is, the marine system, the entire marine ecosystem in India or around India is so huge, and we have again, our enemies or friends all around today, including the Afghanistan, which is also emerging as enemy today, unfortunately. So therefore, the objective of surveillance in entire marine system and also in the land systems, there's a lot of opportunity in the defense itself onto that. In this, again, I'm not talking about the civilian opportunities in the defense and in the space-related activities, but I'm talking about focus. I would like to say a few points only on the defense side in that. And the amount of information to be gathered for the surveillance using the defense satellites with high-resolution satellites as a highest resolution as possible, like 0.3 meters, or revisit period of, let's say, you can call it something like 1 day, 1 hour, that kind of repetitive visits of that. So for this, a lot of satellites are required in the space. And when in this, a lot of innovation that can be brought in, that is in terms of resolution, in terms of sensors, development of sensors, and in terms, when you talk about sensors, we can talk about something like radar sensors, hyperspectral, multispectral, a lot of opportunities in this area. See, when our friends from L&T, we talk about a lot of investments that are required, that's for making a system, a lot of investments are required, a platform as a whole. But ideas of startups, the idea to be converted into a technological opportunity, in this, there are very many. For example, when you're talking about a radar satellite, then how the entire bandwidth is to be divided using the RF communication and how to map the whole process of it. In this, there is a technology that is required in the sensors, then on the ground is image processing and the relaying of the data from one satellite to another satellite and the processing reaching into the ground. So a lot of opportunities in all these ideas and small investments that matter. That's it. And we're not talking about the big investment, making the tanks and making aircrafts, etc. But each aircraft, again, in the armed forces today, in the air force or whatever, they also require a lot of surveillance equipment in that. That equipment is, again, the investment is not so huge, but the ideas that matter in this area. Like this, there are immense opportunities for startups to work both in terms of the defense hardware related and also software related. For example, in the software related to cybersecurity, today such a situation, anybody with a software bent of mind, with embedded systems in their mind, they can create a lot of cybersecurity related algorithms today. And that's where the surveillance also comes into that. Networking is another opportunity. A lot of youngsters being talking about the software, a lot of opportunities in the networking area. Then software defined. When say software defined, now every tank needs a lot of software today because everything is driven by the software communications. And every aircraft requires a lot of software, and every communication coming to the ground requires a lot of software. So therefore, opportunities for the ideas are very many in this. So therefore, similarly, drones, loitering munitions, and aiming at it, GPS, and modernization of the whole thing. Like this, very many opportunities. I'm sure the nation is going to be empowered with the entrepreneurship of the startups and opportunities coming up, and Government of India giving a lot of support to this. And you were lucky youngsters, this compared to when we started our company, all of you lucky, very lucky youngsters. And I'm sure you become an entrepreneur. You can think of that. government supports you full support, and companies like us, and surely would like to engage a lot of new ideas to grow further on that. Thank you. I wish all good luck for the startup companies and new entrepreneurs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rao. It was a very, very nice deliberation for the benefit of the private sector. May I now request our next speaker, Nidhi Bansal, to share her deliberation with the participating delegates. Ms. Bansal is part of DRDO as a director. Ms. Bansal.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, and thank you very much, ICC, for giving us this opportunity. Like Mr. Banerjee said, I am Director, Technology Development Fund at DRDO. The very fact that DRDO's 2 speakers are there in this 1 hour long session shows that DRDO is committed to the private industry and the startups, particularly. Technology Development Fund is a new scheme, so I thought I'll give you an overview of that scheme. It is a flagship scheme of Ministry of Defense, which is being executed by DRDO. In this scheme, what we're doing is we are trying to give grants to the industries, and the focus is on MSMEs and startups. And we give them a grant for a project value of up to 10 crore. And the 90%, that is the lion's share, is being paid by the government in that. The fund is only one part of it. We also give you support through an integrated project mentoring team, which consists of the DRDO scientists, the domain experts, I should say, the user, that is any of the forces who requires that particular technology. We also have academia on board. We have the certifying agency on board, and we also have quality assurance people on board, other than the finance people. So it is kind of a holistic and an organic scheme. And my friend from L&T, he talked about the era when we were looking at private industry to only built to print, that you get some drawings, some blueprints from abroad or from our own people, and you would just kind of manufacture based on whatever is there in those drawings. Now, this particular scheme, TDF, that I'm talking to you about, is in essence, it is a built to spec scheme, where we only draw specs for you, give it to you, and we handhold you through that whole process. Also, Mr. Rangarajan brought out the barriers that are there in the defense ecosystem. No doubt, defense barriers are taller than any other barriers. And we require some kind of, we need to know the processes that are required for crossing those barriers. So this scheme is made such, it's conceptualized in such a manner that in the first phase, in the first project of yours that you will be doing with us, we will handhold you through those barriers. So we will make it easier for you to cross that, be it the trials, be it the certification, be it the quality assurance. The team that I talked to you about, the integrated project team, is going to be with you in this shoulder to shoulder and try to take you to the other side. And we'll hope that the next time you should be able to do it yourself. Now, going ahead in this scheme, what we have done is, because DRDO realized that there is a whole lot of potential in the startups, and India could become a startup nation, so to say. So what we have done is that any project which is of lower value, lower than 1 CR, the leadership has said that it is going to be only done by startups. Only in the chances that the startups are not coming forward or they do not qualify for any of those projects, will it be that we'll take it for the bigger industries, be it MSME or the large industry. So all the projects which are there less than 1 crore will be only open to startups. We have a website through which we operate, and that is tdf.drdo.gov.in. And time to time, we keep putting our projects on that. And I'll request you all to register on that website, go through that, and see. I'm sure each one of you will find something for yourself there. There is another scheme which we call Dare to Dream, and we have just, in fact, on the 4th of October, Honorable RM has launched the third version of it after huge success of the first and the second version, where we had more than 4,000 registration in the second version and 1,800 applications. We announced 40 winners. So in the third version, which we have launched recently, whosoever will come out as a winner, there is a commitment from DRDO that if that particular technology is needed by our users, by our tri-services, we will give you a follow-on project to convert that idea into the prototype that is needed in the first phase, and that would be less than obviously 1 crore. And if there is still more potential and still more promise in that, we will give you a follow-on project where we will take it to the higher TDF projects. So yes, it is very sure that if you look at the platform level thing, there is a longer duration that is required to prove a system. But I think the kind of technologies that we are looking at in TDF, especially with the startups, we are looking at a project turnaround time of not more than 24 months or 2 years, because we realize that the relevance of technology will remain only if it is kind of done in a quick turnaround kind of a time. After 10 years or something, that technology will lose its relevance. That is what we think. So I don't think there is any need to lose heart thinking that everything is long time and everything requires a long drawn process for the acceptance and the trials. I'm sure each one will have something to pick up from. There are lots of technologies like Mr. Subbarao brought out where you do not require those kinds of hardwares where it has to be tested in plus 70 and minus 40. There are things which are maybe dual use, maybe they have applications in civil as well as in their software based, where yes, the acceptance is stringent undoubtedly, because that is maybe sometimes the mission and the safety of the whole crew depends on that, but it's not so long drawn. That is all I can tell you. So I'll request you to go to the DRDO website and see the Dare to Dream 3 problems and see if something suits you. Even if nothing suits you in the problems that we have defined, there is a category called unimaginable, and which is an open category where you can give your ideas. And if the committee feels that that idea has some substance in it, we will still award you and ask you to take it forward. Also, I'll request that you must register yourself on the TDF website, see the kind of projects that are there, because these projects are tailor-made to suit a startup culture. The ones that we are coming up with less than 1 crore, they are done such that, and once you have some incubation with an academic partner, I'm sure it will not be very difficult for you to realize the kind of technologies that we have been looking at. I think we are already past the time that was given to me. So I'll stop here and I'll wish you all the very best and wish you many successes. And I'm sure there is sky's the limit for the trajectory that you are on. So come be a partner with us, because whatever we like to cook here, whatever be our recipe here, the most important ingredient remains you all. Until unless you all participate, it's going to be only insipid. So in the end, I'll only say, Sahaviryam karvavahe tejasvinadhitamastu, is that when we walk together, when we do together, only it will have the glow that is required, the luster that is required. Thank you so much, and I'll be muting my mic now. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bansal. In fact, it's heartening to note that you are actively engaging with the private sector. There is a specific scheme, specific thought processes involved in terms of engagement with startups. This is very meaningful. We are going to disseminate this part of the information among the startup community, especially with the ones who are working in the defense sector. There are certainly questions which has come, but in the paucity of time, it will not be possible for us to engage into a question answer session now. Because the next session needs to start. However, we will send across the questions to our esteemed speakers so that they can possibly answer those.
Please
So
do.
again,
Thank you.
I would like to, on behalf of ICC, I would like to thank all of you for taking your time out and being part of this meaningful program and being speakers in this particular session. Thank you so much. So thank you.
We are signing out.
Yeah, thank you. We will be just, ladies and gentlemen, we will just start with our real estate session. I would now like to request Dr. Kunal Banerjee, the moderator of this particular session, to take over and start the moderation process. Dr. Banerjee, welcome on board. It's heartening to see you today here in this meaningful program. So kindly take things forward with your fellow panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Demalio, and thanks to ICC for asking all of us to participate in this startup program. I see that you have gathered some of the most prominent people and speakers on this panel, and I'm proud to be the moderator here. I'd like to start this off by saying that we are talking about a $1 trillion, market.
Forward with your fellow panelists.
So this is big. Thank you. Am I audible to everyone? Thanks to ICC.
Yes, you're audible.
It's audible.
You're audible.
Wonderful.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting and important topic because we're talking about a $1 trillion market over here, and it's going to grow to a phenomenal level in the next few years. And I believe the investment in this, and a lot of the panelists here are going to talk about that, is more than $3.5 trillion in the next few years, which is like a phenomenal amount of money coming into real estate in India alone. So this growth is going to be by quantum leaps, and very soon the government also will realize that we will contribute around 13% of GDP in this market, which will mean that many people in the industry will be benefiting from the growth of the real estate market in various facets. And as we all know, the real estate market is not just housing. We are looking at every aspect of the real estate market. The startups are looking at, and the opportunity and canvas is so vast. It's not residential, it's rental of residential, it's commercial, it's malls, it's warehousing, it's co-living, it's co-working, and it just continues. And down the line, we have the technology supporting this, the training, the skill development. It's huge. The accelerators, the people who are mentoring this trade. So I think the canvas and universe cannot be encapsulated in 1 hour, but the talented people that we have here, and let me just introduce them to you, a very exciting panel. I can see Mr. Rohin Parker is there. Hi, Rohin. Rohin is very fortunate, because Rohin is living in Goa, and I'm really envying you because living and working from Goa, and we are in the big cities. But we all wish we were with you, and I hope we'll be with you soon. The thing about Rohin is that he has looked at, is not only a startup, is far more than a startup. He's looking at PropTech in a very big way. And we will be asking him about technology and PropTech and what he's been doing. And he has, in fact, already helped so many companies as per our past conversation. And he will tell us about his company and what he's going to contribute. We have the very talented Mr. John Kurvilla. And it was so exciting talking to him because he is the man who is going to accelerate and already accelerating various companies, not only startups, in the PropTech arena, where it's going to contribute and is contributing to the development of the Indian real estate industry. And mentors and companies like him are the backbone, I think, of the future. So we are waiting to hear from John and Mr. John Kurvilla, and I believe he has some slides to show us, and we're looking forward to that as well. And Mr. Salpuria is somebody that I'm seeing right now over here. This young gentleman has actually achieved a lot. He wears many hats, He is a man who, with all the startups, will be looking at you, Apurva, because you are an investor into various programs in real estate, whether it's actual development or it's the technology of development or the skill of development. And he is himself owner of a company who is developing many projects by himself. So he has his hats, many hats, and he has talents in many, many businesses. And I'm sure a lot of the startups who are watching this will be, waiting to hear from him. And hi, Sashi Kiran, the highly talented, very qualified gentleman, who has studied in all the IIMs and IITs, and we certainly can learn from him. He has developed construction technology to a very high degree, and he has been able to aid many companies, I'm told by him, in terms of using digital technology, not only for the startup, but a very, I would say, advanced stage in making life easier for architects, engineers, civil engineers, structural engineers, and of course, highly technical aspects of the business, which he's going to tell us about. And in the slightly non-technical area, he has also developed technology in handing over projects and maintaining projects, which is an extension of what he's been doing in the past. So we're looking forward to hearing from him. And who else is there with us in the panel today? I'm not seeing Mr. Premanarayan is to join us. Mr. Kunal Premanarayan. We are looking forward to him joining us. I'm not seeing him on there. Okay, doesn't matter. I think we can start off. May I ask Rohin, since you are our friend from Goa, to set the ball rolling and tell us what sort of technology can you advise the startups, and what you've been your experience, and can you share your experience in technology, prop tech, in real estate, especially from startup now going toward the unicorn? Please tell us.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Kunal. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, all the esteemed guests. So we are a company based out of Goa. We are focused on building automation, prop tech, and we have started with access control as a market segment. Our goal is to unclutter the building space, building environment. If you consider any large commercial real estate, you'll have tons of devices which are installed in the building, say access control devices or smoke detectors. A typical commercial building could have like hundreds or up to thousands of smoke detectors. And all these need to be wired to controllers, central controllers in a building. There's a huge amount of cost and labor which goes into these installations. Our goal is to simplify this, completely eliminate the wires from buildings and make them wireless. So ours is a fully wireless mesh IoT platform for building automation. That is what we're building. And we have only started with access control devices at this point. So we enable seamless door access for users who enter commercial spaces using their smartphones. So we cater to co-working spaces, business parks, new real estate greenfield projects where we're going into. So that's what we do. And I think this is a big opportunity because this space has been dominated by companies like Honeywells of the world or the Bosches of the world, right? And they are very legacy players. So it's very ripe for disruption using wireless and cloud technologies.
Rohin, could I probe you a little further? Wonderful telling us about the technology that you are involved in. Since there are thousands of startups, young men and women watching this, for the sake of the country, what would you advise them, and what particular focused areas, since you're an expert, that they should imbibe, what they should get into, what will make sense to them, and what people like Mr. Salpuria will invest in? What do you think is the thing that the country needs?
I think it's a great time to get into hardware. We've been reliant on China a lot over the last 2 decades for hardware. The policies have improved in India. I think India is now focusing on manufacturing as a sector. So focusing on hardware as a sector would be great for any startups, like having a product of it. That's what we have been doing. And that really differentiates us in this times where Make in India is also gaining a lot of importance. So I think hardware could be one area coupled with a very strong software. I think India already is a very strong software country. So, but if you can couple the cloud capabilities, software capabilities with hardware, then it becomes a very good, strong product portfolio for any startup.
Well, thank you. So software and hardware is something that our young startups should concentrate on and to search. Now that it brings me to our very good friend, Mr. John Kurvilla. John, could we have you unmute? The question to you is that, you are in the right place at the right time. I mean, everybody is saying that they need an accelerator. They need people to prop them up. They need people to show them what they can do. And some people are a little nervous on their feet. I mean, I've also experienced a lot of startups nervous on their feet. They need a guru and mentor and a company that can handhold them from A to Z, or Z as the English call it. And completely, show them what to do and even take them to a stage where Mr. Salpuria will actually invest in them. So could you throw light on this, Mr. Kurvilla? Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Banerjee. Thank you, ICC, for having me. It's a very interesting space and one that I'm very passionate about. But like I told Dr. Banerjee, I'd like to share 5-6 slides to just encourage startups on this panel, as also real estate developers. And in Apurva, we have a very, very strong ecosystem partner who's doing significantly more than most developers in the East to catalyze the category. In 2016, October, when we started, the word PropTech didn't exist. Everybody told me I had left a fabulous job at Reliance, saying, what are you up to? Why are you wasting your time getting into this sector? Startups won't come. Real estate companies will not use technology. 5 years forward, we've realized that what we came in to solve is this. This picture clearly outlines the problem every country, every city in the world has. It's the migration of population to smaller land parcels. When I say small, relative, Calcutta, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai. And if you look at density of people per square mile, in India, it is amongst the highest in the world. Now, what this does to the environment, to the quality of life, is the following. The world is running out of water. And what's scary is that in the next 4 years, 21 cities will run out of groundwater. Chennai, which has got the ocean on one side, is run out of groundwater. Bangalore, Sarjapur, Whitefield is run out of groundwater. If you look at sewage, another challenge that's happening, there are more deaths as a result of sewage than war. 48% of the world's population does not have access to sewage. And people in Calcutta may find this a very strange picture on the right. It's a picture of lakes in Bangalore that catch fire every year. And the army is called in to douse it because 40% of Bangalore's sewage goes to lakes. And it's not that every building does not have STPs, but STPs need power and they don't function half the time. Another challenge is waste. And here, what would amaze you, Dr. Banerjee, is that Calcutta, along with Delhi, Mumbai, and Chennai, is going to face the problem of landfills because 83% of waste collected in the world and in India, almost 30% only 30% is treated. Now, these are challenges that are facing us on the ground. In the air, 140 million people in India breathing air 10x over the safe limit. We thought this was applicable to only Delhi during the burning of agri-waste, but this is prevalent even in Bangalore. Another silent killer which is coming our way is electromagnetic radiation. As we become so dependent on Wi-Fi, cellular mobiles, this is going to be the next big killer that's going to impact life on Earth. Now, if you look at what are the challenges facing our country, I've taken just one city, Bangalore. In 1973, 68% of Bangalore was green. In 2020, only 3% is green. And 39% of CO2 emission, 35% of all waste, 30% of energy costs, 20% of all water consumption is in buildings, which brings me to the financial implications of waste to the real estate and construction industry. 1 degree increase in temperature is 4 degree increase in HVAC, 30% increase in water costs, 7% increase in waste management costs. And we have a startup called Smarter Dharma, which is building the world's first sustainable resource platform, which has calculated that $2.3 billion is the wasteful expenditure by the construction industry in Bangalore, one city. Extrapolate that to 10 cities, you're talking of close to $20, $25 billion. And that's on the environment. On the other side, Real estate industry has the worst labor productivity anywhere in the world. And this is a McKinsey report. This is not something we picked up. And real estate till last year was investing less than 1.5%, the lowest across verticals in investing in technology. Now, Dr. Banerjee, you talked of 4 or 5 sectors, verticals within PropTech. But our 5 years has taught us that this is much larger. It's got sustainability, wellness, auto and energy, big data, materials, asset management, legal tech. And the most exciting part of our journey is that the sexiest businesses, verticals in the startup world, EdTech, the valuation investments grew by 37% over the last 5 years. Health tech, 12%. And the darling of VCs, FinTech has grown by 46%. But PropTech is growing at 105%. And the base is not small. It's $95 billion worldwide, and it's growing. So with that, I thought I'd just quickly share the landscape across the world in PropTech and the journey that the spectators, the participants, along with real estate developers across the country have to come together. And we are happy to be a catalyst in this space. Thank you for having me.
This was really, really an eye-opener, John. I must say, you took us to a dystopian future, and then you brought us back with joy, with a lot of good things that can be done. And some of them are very alarming. And I'm based in Gurgaon, Delhi. Some of you may know I'm an advisor to certain companies like M3M, Smart World, Central Park, and all that, right now in Smart World. And one of the things that every morning we get up and we breathe in a pretty unhealthy air. So you're absolutely right. What can we do about it? Well, we shall discuss that further. But does it cut down our lifespan? It does. By 5 to even 10 years, your lifespan is being cut because of the air we breathe. Are we in the real estate industry some amount of culprit in this? Yes, we are. In our construction, etc. We don't burn wheat and stubble, but we do some other stuff which are perhaps not right and can be done much better in a cleaner, greener world if we know what to do. And if you raise the alarm and the developers of this world take cognizance of your warning and feel that it is financially viable to actually take those steps without losing profits, which could be hurtful in the short run, but in the long run, you'll be selling more. And if that understanding is spread by people like you as evangelists saying that, do it now and you will get more later, rather than let's cut corners and blow the world and make a lot of money. But that's a very philosophical and political discussion, and we're not onto that. And we also need to be slightly sober about it. But you've raised some, those slides were really important. I was wondering what the slides were going to be like, but John, you opened our eyes, and this is fantastic. The extension of the startups, to bring it back into what we are discussing, the extension of startup possibilities and opportunities, I think you've hit it on the nail on the head. There are so much more than what I just said in the introductory talk. And that also opens up a venue of businesses that people can get into. And this takes me, very comfortably into talking to Sashi Kiran, because Sashi is in that field itself, with a highly educated and talented gentleman sitting in Bangalore, another great city, although getting very crowded, Sashi. But at the same time, the height of technology, in construction, infrastructure, IT, handing over maintenance and mobile apps. But apart from, yes, first you tell us about that first in your company, Falcon Brick, but also tell us about some of the aspects that John Kurvilla touched on. Is what about, health tech and fintech and areas where you can help developers and startups can actually join. They can learn, they can be tutored and educated in this and make a living out of this type of prop tech related technologies. Over to you, Sashi.
Thank you, Doctor. Great to speak to you today, and great to speak to you earlier, Dr. Banerjee. And good to know that you're associated with Smart World. It's a company that we know pretty well, and M3M. And I think, John, nice to meet you after a long time. It's been a while, and great to meet you here as well. Uh, Dr. Banerjee, before I, kind of get into what Falcon Big is about, I'll just kind of lay some context. You know what, we've talked about PropTech, of course. So now, if you look at the construction industry in India, right, construction, real estate, what it's like 500, 600, billion right now, on way to grow to 1 trillion in the next 5 years, 4, 5 years. Uh, that kind of a scale, second largest contributor to India's GDP. If that happens, we'll be like third largest construction economy in the world, just next to US and China. While that's the rosy picture, there is a not so rosy picture as well, part of this picture. While you've got all that kind of growth that's happening, every single, not only housing for all, not only commercial, every single budget talks about infrastructure spends by the government. The not so rosy picture is it's an industry that's plagued by some very severe and critical issues. Project delays, huge cost overruns, poor quality, poor safety. The four critical aspects that any project should actually have: time, cost, quality, safety, all of them. We face some severe issues in all of them. Just to throw some statistics on this, in this vein, about 50%, Dr. Banerjee, 50% of residential projects just in the top 7 cities. I'm talking about the four metros: Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Ahmedabad. If you look at the top 8 cities, 50% of the projects in these top 8 cities are delayed as of last year. This was actually a study that was done as of last year, May, just after the pandemic hit. Uh, the impact of these 50% of this delay is close to about 5.3 lakh crores. That's in terms of residential. I'm not even talking about the other cities. If you come to infrastructure projects, about 80% of infrastructure projects are delayed and have cost overruns with huge impacts. Now, the interesting part is, this is not just in India. There was actually a McKinsey study that was also done last year, which actually estimated the impact of poor productivity and efficiency on construction industry worldwide, and a whopping figure of 1.6 trillion USD came up. Across the world, construction and real estate companies lose about $1.6 trillion annually just because of poor productivity and efficiency and very legacy methods. I mean, just look at it. We heard the numbers saying the industry spends less than about 1.5%. That's right. It was actually less than 1% about 4 or 5 years back. And the point is, because it's almost like teaching an elephant to dance. The industry is still working like it was, let's say, in the 1970s, 80s. So the ironical fact is you've got an industry that's growing so well. It's the second largest contributor to GDP, but unfortunately very less penetrated by technology. So that's actually the way we looked at this problem. Why are there cost overruns? Why are there delays? Why is there poor quality? And if you actually drill deep, you actually find, apart from external factors like lack of funding, government protocols, and all of that, some very intrinsic problems in the way we work. I'll just give you one aspect out of everything else in the interest of time. If you look at the way any project is managed by any company, right? You have multiple departments involved: head office functions, site functions, right? Now, if you see, for a project to happen on time, there are three aspects: the planning of the project, the execution of the project, the monitoring of the project. Head office and sites need to be in tandem all the time from start to the end. That never happens. Head office sits in an ivory tower, creates a plan, and I'm talking about, let's say, majority of the way projects are concerned are done. They prepare a plan which is like sitting in an ivory tower, very nice plan. Within 3, 4 months, since you've not planned the resources to be executed on ground to achieve that plan, the project plans go all right. 5 materials come late, 6 contractors don't arrive on time, shit hits the fan, and the next 4 years, what you're doing is trying to update the plan to meet the actuals, whereas it should be the reverse. And that's the way it is. And head office and people do not have they don't have visibility on what's actually happening at site. Am I delayed? Am I on time? Will I complete on time? Am I paying more to my contractors than I should be paying? And at the end of the project, you find out you're already 6 months delayed with 12 more months left, and you're already 40% over budget. So this is the problem we said this needs to be solved. Little or no technology is available, less than 5% of technology actually touching the site. So we said, let's do something to actually bring all these three key parts: planning, execution, and monitoring on the same platform. Started with handover, backward integrated into finishing, went into structures and looked at the entire thing. And I think some success that we have, what's heartening is we've seen people on the ground using it, and a fundamental shift in the way people are looking at technology. When we started in 2017, people were like, why should I use technology? I've been doing things very well till now. What is your technology going to really help me in? Now they're actually seeing, and CREDAI is creating communities saying technology for implementing in real estate. So we've seen that shift, and that's very heartening. That's about construction.
Really great. I mean, you are doing, I would say, endeavors for the first time using technology and convincing. I'm glad you've been able to transform people's minds, because the first thing you have to do is to change the mindset of the people.
Absolutely.
You have been successful in doing that, Sashi. I'll be coming back to you.
Sure.
And now, in fact, a very important question will come to you very soon. But before that, we are all eager to hear Mr. Apurva Sarpuria, the gentleman who all the startups are looking at, because he's an investor and he's an experienced developer. And the startups want to know, sir, what is it that you're looking for? And you've heard all the eminent panelists talking about technology, about time saving, about props that can help developers. Now you are wearing both the hats. You have done all the enterprises. You're selected as the Young Entrepreneur of the Year and things like that. We're proud to know you. Please give us some advice. How can we get your money and make you happy?
Very good evening, Dr. Banerjee, and a very good evening to all my fellow panelists. Extremely eminent panelists. Dr. Banerjee, just picking up from what everybody said, John, who's of course one of the most, who's got one of the best views across what's happening in this, prop tech space, and both Shashi and Rohin who are operating in this space. We spoke about a number of challenges and a number of things which will come up as issues in the next few years. And the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm not trying to be kind of cliched or philosophical about it, is that there is the opportunity in this space is large, is huge, because we have all of these issues. We have a chance to build something to address each and every one of these issues. Now, just to kind of set the context from a developer's perspective, it's a brick and mortar industry where we've been, like Sashi as well pointed out, we've been doing things a certain way with small little incremental changes for the last many decades. And the biggest challenge has been to change mindsets within the companies. It might be, as the head of a company or the head of an organization to kind of say, yes, I want to adopt technology, but to get people down the line to think that, they actually want to participate in that, not just because, their boss is saying so, but because that is something which will kind of benefit them and the organization in the longer term, is the biggest challenge which still exists. Very honestly, we've tried to work with multiple prop tech companies, and we've had mixed kind of experiences, not because of the quality of the technology or the nature of the problem, but because we've probably not in all cases been able to align our teams to the long-term benefits. Because in the short term, it's about changing the methods that they already work in, taking them out of their comfort zone. And, that is a common issue across industries, across, startups, in terms of how to align people to, adapt to technology. Having said that, now coming kind of more directly to your question in terms of the opportunities, of course, the opportunities are, large and widespread. I think a large part of the kind of time and effort on the startups side, or where we see a larger number of startups, have been on the customer-centric side, whether it's to do with digital marketing, whether it's to do with, showing the customers a better experience through 3D, 4D, augmented reality, and so on and so forth. And only in the last couple of years, I think we've started seeing a lot more companies trying to, get into the construction process, getting into, technology at site, getting into thing. And, Sashi and Rohin both kind of represent that side of thing. So again, without kind of trying to evade the question, I think the opportunity is massive. We have opportunities across pretty much every spectrum of the industry, because as an industry we've been a laggard in kind of adapting to technology. I think the path ahead presents even more opportunities.
Yeah, thanks, Apurva. But we will not let you go. We'll keep you here for a minute, and we'll go, back this way. We'd like to hold on to you, and from a very practical point of view. I mean, let this session be not just a vanilla session, but actually useful to all the startup people who are watching. I believe thousands of youngsters are watching you at the moment. Now, as a youngster, many have asked this question: what is the prop tech or what is the startup in real estate that would make an investor interested? Is it the question of profitability, how much money they will save, how much money they will make in the long run, or is it ease of utilization? Like in my own company, I know, and I think Sashi knows that in M3M and all, the biggest hurdle is the IT guy himself. I mean, I'm not casting any aspersions to anyone, but the first thing is to convince the IT guy that this is actually going to help your company, and therefore, one must invest in it. So, as an investor, the youngsters who are watching, what advice would you give them? And what particular type of, business they should get into or promote, which will actually invite outside investors, to equity investors to come in, which will help developers, decide that, yes, I need this app, I need this program, I need this software, I need this hardware. Sashi also said that certain hardware are required. What is it that you would advise them? They're looking at you right now and saying, boss, paisa kahan se aayega?
Sure. So, Dr. Banerjee, honestly, I think funding is the least of the concerns in the startup ecosystem today. What I would very strongly advise young startups and, young ladies and gentlemen who are getting into this is, please identify genuine problems in the industry and try to solve them. Again, it sounds a little philosophical and cliche, but that is the reality. Don't get into funding as an end goal. Funding is a means to solve the problem that you are looking at. And if you are looking at funding as an end goal, unfortunately, it's a journey which is going to abruptly kind of come to a halt, if not now, a little later. So look at genuine problems in the industry. And if you can use technology to solve that, not incrementally, but in a quantum manner, that is ultimately the strongest foundation of any business. And if you can do that in the real estate industry, that's where the opportunity lies. Don't look at funding as an end goal. Funding is only, a means to help you solve those problems in an accelerated manner. And, beyond that, what exactly you should pick depends on your skill sets and the skill sets of your team. If we were to, kind of give you that exact piece, then I think, there is something wrong in the ecosystem itself where we are trying. So, there are a number of problems, go talk to developers, go talk to other people in the ecosystem, people like John who have a much wider view, and seek guidance and pick large problems which you can, affect in a quantum manner, not just incremental changes.
Hey, fantastic. I mean, we were looking for this type of answer and you have given it. You're absolutely right that funding is, not the biggest problem. The challenge, I won't say problem, challenge is to find the right business startup within the real estate, scenario, and to go for that and make that a viable project. Thank you. That's great. I'm happy we've got Kunal Premanarayan to join us. We were missing your guidance in many of the areas. The panelists have spoken pretty much at length in the real estate industry in terms of the startups here. But you have a great experience, Kunal. Nice name you've got.
Thank you.
In the malls and commercial sectors, how do you see the industry going in terms of startups joining this? And in the retail market, what are the startup areas? What are the technologies? You're an expert and you've covered it all in these fields. So what can you advise the youngsters on this?
Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Banerjee. Life has really changed for the retail real estate sector post-COVID. And I would say what one would have looked at technology from a 10 to 15 year perspective, it's happening today as we speak. So if I look at, just the way historically one would manage an asset, be it a mall or a car park, it is more from a traditional mindset While today, if you're looking at a real estate asset or a retail-centric asset, you're looking at it, from a different lens, which is more from a not only from an offline lens, but also from an online lens. How do you look at your asset from a not just trying to get people to come to your asset, but how do you get the asset? How do you digitize it and get it to people's homes? So we're seeing a lot of technology and startups which are coming, which is going to enable retailers and facilitate their omni-channel experience while also having offline stores. 2 years from today, you're already seeing that the largest retailers, they're looking at smaller stores. They're looking at larger distribution centers. You're looking at technology which is already in places like China, which are coming to the retail sector, where you're going to be sitting in your house and you're going to be able to see the entire catalog of the retailer. But actually, it's only an online catalog. So you're going to get that entire physical experience. So a lot of changes in the retail real estate sector.
Let me catch you before we leave on this. The topic of retail industry and malls and technology. Do you think, Kunal, that, like Argos, you walk into a store, you just choose what you want and you walk back home. So there's no display of products. Do you think this whole changing scenario, and especially after COVID, people are very much into buying things from home. Is it going to affect the malls and the shops where you have to walk in and buy things, or you can sit back and order everything and it'll come from furniture to the elephant will come to your home?
As a mall owner, you have to target both now, right? Historically, you were looking at footfalls coming into your mall. That game has changed. So if you're building an asset, what you put on the asset is going to be based on data. There's very little consumer data which was historically being captured. Today, I would say that's the key. What you put in your asset is not what you want, right? But really what the catchment area wants. We're seeing a lot of formats today which, they have ghost stores, right? I mean, F&B, you're seeing a huge push there where it's cloud kitchens, but you're going to see that on a number of formats which are physically in your asset. So as an asset owner, you're going to get a percentage of those sales, but they're primary online stores. So your shopping center will have to be looked at as a lens of a quasi distribution center moving forward.
Yeah, we have only 1 hour and there's so much to talk to you about, especially when you talk about the milk baskets and the MyGates of this, the new technologies which are coming up. A lot of startups are getting into this, but we will need another hour to discuss this because it's fascinating how the malls can still survive and the retail trade can still survive, and the big baskets and good life stores and all, and the apps which are there, they can also survive. New startups can come in or not come in if the market saturated. There's a lot of questions, but then we don't have much time, and we need
Dr.
to.
Banerjee, can I just?
Yeah.
Dr. Banerjee, can I just add to?
Coming to you now.
No, but I want to just add to what Kunal Jr., I'll call him that because there are two Kunals, had to say. So Kunal, you raised a very valid point on data. Do you know there are startups today who, without using the cameras in malls, actually tell you where your customer has been, maintaining complete privacy? Second, let me talk of disruption. Every mall today, thanks to COVID, has many stores which are lying empty. And we've seen the birth of ride sharing, co-working, co-living. We are mentoring two lawyers from Bangalore, Delhi school lawyers, who've created India's first flexi retail. So a lot of B2C brands, which earlier were completely relying on digital sales, are actually taking light stores, the name of the company is Light Stores, flexi retail, and setting up temporary stores for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And when they came to Brigade said, boss, this is such an opportunity. 15% of our retail spaces are empty. this is such a great opportunity to bring in a different set of footfalls. So there is disruption happening even in that space. Just to add to Kunal, what you were saying.
So you will start a lot of digital malls also.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to jump to Rohin. Rohin, everyone is envying you in Goa. Now, some of the startups have been calling up and asking. You talked about prop tech and hardware and software. Can you give now? We're putting you on the spot, really. What are the particular? Can you tell in India what are the actual hardware and software startups that they can venture into and succeed in India? Let's say in the next 3 years. So we are putting you on the spot, but I think you can answer that.
See, I think most of the panelists also spoke about data, right? It's the age of data. You need data to make decisions. It's becoming really difficult to get each and every aspect of data, which can give insight into your business or your space, real estate space. So I think there's so much opportunity that there is so much appetite for data that you can generate data using, say, sensors or hardware devices. Like that's what we focus on. We're focused on building sensors which have been wired for last few decades, and getting that data into the cloud becomes a huge hassle, right? How can you get that data directly into the cloud? By putting connectivity into these devices. There are so many such devices existing in buildings, real estate, say malls, for example, counting people, so many opportunities, right? So we don't build this hardware in the country. We tend to import this hardware, and that's what gets used. So these are the opportunities I would say for any startup to explore.
Okay.
Obviously, it comes down to problem solving, as Mr. Apurva spoke about, right? It's not just for sake of building hardware. It has to solve a real estate owner's problem in terms of, say, giving them data or being able to save cost. So I think if any startup is looking at building hardware products, there is wireless and IoT is a big area. We are focused on IoT, Internet of Things, in PropTech space.
Yeah. Actually, you've given some concrete examples, practical things that people can do, which is what everyone's looking for. Sashi, are you going to replace the architects and civil engineers with technology?
So here's the thing, Dr. Banerjee. So it's a very interesting thing. We don't. I wouldn't look at it as replacing architects and civil engineers. Here's the thing. If you look at the industry, it's a very interesting point. If you look at the industry, if you go to any developer, right, or any builder, and Purva's here, the one thing we keep hearing from them in this industry, right, the one thing that we keep hearing from many real estate developers and construction companies is, if you ask them what's your biggest problem today, they'll say shortage of skills, shortage of skilled labor, shortage of skilled contractors, shortage of skilled staff. Over a period of time, if you see about 20 years back, civil engineering used to be the prized possession, the prized stream of engineering in any engineering college. People used to be like the toppers are in civil engineering. Over a period of time, what's happened is other streams have overtaken it, etc. So a lot of people, if you see, who are, whether it's staff or even labor, who are there, who are working in many of these companies, are there. I would say about 20-30% of them have become civil engineers by choice. The remaining are because they couldn't get into computer science, this, that, and they're waiting to switch jobs, etc. If you look at it from that perspective, there is a perpetual complaint that we're not able to get skilled guys, and hence that shows in the quality of work, that shows in the fact that projects are delayed, etc. However, that's the way I would look at technology. I would not look at it as something that's going to replace people. I would look at it as an effective tool in the hands of people which bridges the skill gap. Do not work the way you were working 20 years back. If you actually have technology in your hands, even ordinary people who are not really skilled, whether it's labor or staff or whoever, frontline labor or staff, it makes them do wonders. We've actually seen people who are just probably, they've not even done their graduation and they've come to do civil engineering work in companies, at real estate developers. If the right technology is given to them and the right tools are given to them, they're the people who will actually feature as the best technology user of the month, the guy who's shown the best productivity. We've seen that kind of wonder. So I would look at it as a tool which is something that you can use to work wonders in the hands of the people that you already have. That's the way I would look at it.
No, no, of course, I agree with you. We all agree. I was just provoking you, actually.
Absolutely.
So skill development and big data accelerator, John, how would you imbibe these 2 points into the work, the noble work that you're doing as accelerator in this field? And skill development, I assume, would be a very much integral part of what you're doing.
So, Dr. Kunal, we have brilliant founders, people like Shashi, people like Rohin who come to us. And when we started PropTech in 2016, there were only 15 PropTech startups that we could find. Today, there are close to 3,000. And there are two large challenges that they come with. One is many of them come with great products, solving great problems. Okay, but what the challenge is, the solutions that they have are not problems that the real estate return is willing to pay for. So there is a huge divide between the problems the startup founders seem to want to solve and the problems on the ground that Apoor talked of, which need to be solved, for which real estate developers are willing to pay money. The second big challenge, and this Shashi alluded to, is that the real estate, setup in a large organization is fairly complex. We ask our startups, who's your customer? And they say real estate, residential. Residential, there's an IT head, there's a finance guy. Who's your customer? Unless you pinpoint that customer, the startup is all over the place. And the third thing where startups are floundering is that real estate developers, many cases, I'm not now painting everybody with the same brush. Many of them view startups as, will you be live tomorrow? How can we take a risk? Because tomorrow you may be dead. But today large companies are dying. So startups today, go in, do work like Shashi. He did terrific work with one real estate developer. Rohin did terrific work with one real estate company. And that company now starts becoming referrals for them. So the credibility is also getting built. So it's a maze that startups are now finding their feet. And we as mentors, Apoor has been a great supporter. Many real estate friends today I've got who are actually seeing the value of what, and COVID has been such a phenomenal boon for startups. It was a bane for real estate, but COVID has actually been that inflection point where startups are now seeing terrific adoption by the industry.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks for that insight. We all agree with you on that. And we look forward to, and many of the startups look forward to your, guidance and mentorship in making them viable, startups where people like Apoor would give them business. We have just 10 minutes. So I would actually request our eminent panelists to give us 2 minutes of your guidance. After all, these 1,000 people who are watching us are looking up to you so that their future is made much more strong and much more profitable and effective in their life. So starting with Apoor, what do you think, if there are 4 or 5 points, if you had to advise let's say you're facing an audience of students in front of you and they're all looking up to you, say, give me 4 or 5 points as a developer, as an investor, what is the guidance for their future life, for the future business that you would like to share? Some nuggets.
Sure. So, first things first, I think, just look at whenever you are looking at a business and, for especially there are students and people who've not yet done business, sometimes the idea of business is intimidating. The idea of selling to businesses is intimidating. So I'm saying, please, just look at your first principles, keep to the basics. If you are, look at the problems of the industry, how you can solve those problems. Don't kind of go thinking too much about things like valuation and funding and things like that. These are part of the journey. They are not the journey. They are not the end goal. And like, John pointed out, look at specific customers within the organization that you are targeting, specific problems. Don't try to be everything to everyone. Try to be, something very important to somebody specific within the organization. And don't look for overnight success that, if I've started today, in a year's time, I should have all the customers and I should have all the funding that I'm seeking. Any business is a journey, and in the startup space, because the startup space is just a tag that we've given to young businesses, and it's no different. We just try to accelerate this journey with the help of external funding instead of internal accruals, and use the resources next to you. Listen to people like John and other developers who are here. Get feedback on your product. Don't feel shy of pivoting or moderating your product in a different direction if the feedback so suggests. So quite a few things I have kind of packed into that short little answer, but I'm hoping
very valuable advice for not only youngsters but senior people as well. Thank you. Slightly skewing towards the retail business, Mr. Similar name, Junior Kunal. Could you give us some insight into it?
Yes, Dr. Banerjee. I would say my biggest learnings have actually been through my failures. And for the students, I would say is don't be afraid to fail, because every time you fail, you are learning something which is invaluable in your journey. Entrepreneurship is a journey. And as Apurva said, success is not overnight, right? Success is over a period of time. And I would say is don't hesitate to continue to evolve in your journey. Specific for the retail sector, I would say, sky is still the limit. Our organized sector in India is maybe 15-16%. So we're only starting. We're still very much starting to scratch the surface of the opportunity. So I think there's immense opportunities there: offline, online, hybrid, technology. If India has to get to where China is, I think we need 200 million square feet of retail real estate, right? So that's the opportunity right now.
Thanks. Yeah, that certainly gives us a lot to think about. Sashi, technology, is it worth it?
I think it's absolutely worth it. And I'll say, I'll tell you what, since today's event is focused on real estate, technology is absolutely worth it. If there is one sector today, I think there's a very interesting statistic by John who showed the growth that is going to be there in PropTech as against other so-called sexy sectors. People say that this sector is sexy, this sector is not so sexy. There is a glamour element to it. If there is a place where you need to innovate today and disrupt, it's construction, real estate, PropTech, construction tech, because the industry is so large and it's got such high ambitions. Just look at it. The India is aspiring to grow from 500 billion to 1 trillion in 5 years. Will that be even possible if you work the way you've been working till now? Absolutely not. The only way in which you are going to achieve that is by disrupting, and technology is the way. You completely shift the way in which you're doing it. And in fact, just to tell you, a lot of people say that the real estate industry doesn't adopt technology. It's gone through demonetization, GST. There's a lot of negativity that used to be there. But I'll tell you, as someone who's seen this industry over the last 4 years, there is a clearly visible shift. The same people who used to say, I actually had someone telling me in Hindi, and I'll actually say this. In 2017, early 2017, when we started, we had somebody telling us, what, रियल एस्टेट डेवलपर के लिए आप जब टेक्नोलॉजी प्रोडक्ट बोलते हो तो वो उसको चाय और समोसे के साथ दिल में जोड़ता है. चाय का इतना कॉस्ट है, समोसे का इतना कॉस्ट है, तो इस सॉफ्टवेयर का भी इतना कॉस्ट है, उस कैटेगरी में जोड़ता था. That's the way it used to be looked at. I mean, why do I need it? Today, as I said, I'll just say that again. You have a body of second generation developers. Let's say people like Apurva, of course, people who are very tech savvy, creating this organization, let's say Kadai or Neretco, whoever, has got 12,000 developers under it. A change of, a leadership happens there. They set up 5 committees. The first 2 committees that are set up are a cost consciousness committee, an efficiency and productivity committee, and a technology for disruption and real estate committee. That itself talks about the mindset. Once this mindset has changed, the perennial problem of whether the builder will pay for your software or will pay for your product or not is automatically solved. So if you need to use technology to disrupt a space in India, this is the space. according to you?
Excellent. You know, every time I provoke you, you come out with gems, and this was absolutely well-provoked gems which has come out. I think everybody is going to be very happy to hear this, and wiser to hear this. Rohin, how do we compare with international startups in the real estate business? And you know, you are working in Goa, but how about the guy working in Silicon Valley, or whether he's working in Japan or Ukraine, which seems to be a hub these days also for prop tech? I don't know why the Ukrainians are getting wise on this and entering our market, but there you are. Please throw some light on this. We are as good, if not better.
I think nothing stops us from sitting in India building products which are world class. Fortunately, I have had a chance of living in Silicon Valley for about 5 years. I worked there for about 12 years in the US and returned back to India. So there is no reason that we cannot build products. Especially, you've seen success stories like Freshworks in the software space, SaaS space. Indian companies coming out of Chennai have been listed on New York Stock Exchange. So they have already proved that. Now it's time for product companies to prove the same, right? Hardware product, physical product companies or technology companies which are disrupting something which has been done for last, say, decades, right? Especially, I think everybody agreed that real estate or prop tech or real estate space has been very slow in adopting technology in general. So we are doing our way of completely changing way buildings are wired together, right? And that change is very difficult to bring about. The only way to bring it about is focusing and not losing hope, right? As Mr. Apur talked about, it's a complex space where you have consultants, you have architects, and sometimes even though the builder wants the technology, is not able to adopt it because it's the space itself is complex. But I think coming to the question, I think we have a great opportunity of disrupting this space.
Yeah, I think you've inspired, all the panelists have inspired most of the startups here to get into this seriously and to think about real estate in terms of startup technology, getting into technology as a business for the real estate industry. The last word and most important word, John, how do you accelerate all our youngsters to get in and become as successful as you are?
So success is very relative. But anyway, I'll try and throw in my, people like Apur, Rohin, Kunal, Shashi have all said it, but I have 4 advices to give. To all the startups here, build business for the sake of business. It is to make money, it is to be profitable, it is to deliver value. Second, do not chase funding or valuation. Let that be byproducts of building a great company and a great product. Third, very, very important, let your dreams be audacious. But there is no get-rich-fast syndrome here. Your persistence and your resilience must be long-term. And the 4th critical advice that I'd give is focus. Do not try and change the world overnight. Experiment, learn to fail, pick yourself, learn from your mistakes, jot that down and build on those mistakes. So these are the 4 advices I'll give you. And I'm telling you, real estate is the only sector where you young friends will solve real problems that affect your lives and my lives on the ground on this planet. That's all I have to say, Doc.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Let me just add a personal word here. I've been on many panels and had an opportunity to moderate many panels like this. But honestly, it's not a cliche. I've really enjoyed meeting all of you and understanding your brilliant minds and all the people who have been watching this. I can tell you factually have benefited from the gems of advice that you have given. I think stitching all the advice together, the startups will have practical guidance on starting their journey forward. As you say, success is not just money, success in terms of fulfilling their lives and end of the day enriching the country, developing India into something which is much more advanced than where we are today. As you say, technology in real estate is less. Hopefully, when we meet next, technology would have been far advanced, especially with eminent people like you. It's been such a pleasure, and I thank ICC again that all of us could have got together and whatever advice we could give to our youngsters. So thank you so much, fellow panelists. It's been wonderful being with you. And I hope that we will in person get together sometime.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you,
ICC.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Banerjee, for wonderfully moderating this session. Many of the points were eye-openers, and all the panelists had beautifully put forward their points, which will be of great use to the startup community at large. This particular program is also being broadcasted via YouTube, so people are watching that. So we come to the end of India Startup Week. This was the last show, last panel discussion for this week. It was a 6-day long carnival, and many of the Indian provinces, they participated. We had Karnataka, we had Uttar Pradesh, we had Orissa, we had Meghalaya. So many of the Indian provinces, they participated. We had Pondicherry. Many of the Indian ministers were there, provincial ministers. We had 4 countries who were our partners. Then we had international ministers from other countries. So more than 100 speakers were part of this particular carnival. So I would like to thank all the panelists, all the speakers, keynote speakers, participants, delegates, stakeholders, our sponsors, state partners, institutional partners, academia, our MOU partners for supporting us for executing this wonderful program. A special thank goes to Invest India, who are our main partners for executing this program. I would also like to place on record our heartfelt thanks to ICC President, Mr. Vikas Agarwal, and Director General, Dr. Rajiv Singh, for their unstinted support in executing this particular program. I would also like to thank Mr. Parthiv Neotia, Mr. Abhishek Rungta, both being chair and co-chair of ICC Startup Committee. I would also like to thank the Senior Vice President of ICC, Mr. Pradeep Sureka, and Vice President, Mr. Mohanka, for their support. So with a great note, I would like to call end of this program. Thank you so much. With this note, I propose a hearty vote of thanks and request all concerned to carry it with a note of acclamation. Thank you. Jai Hind. Vande Mataram.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ICC.
Thank you.